The next day, Donald returned to the hospital as promised. But when he arrived at Robert's room, he found it full of people. Emily was there. Robert was sitting up in bed, looking stronger. And surrounding them were 6 other elderly people, all wearing pieces of old military uniforms or veteran caps. Robert smiled when Donald entered. "Sergeant Trump, welcome. I want you to meet the Thursday group. These are my friends from the Veterans Center. We meet every week, have for 20 years. Donald shook hands with each of them. Navy, Air Force, Army, Marines, all branches, all generations, all looking at him with something like reverence. "Emily told them what you did," one woman said. Her name was Martha, former Navy nurse. She continued, "Robert called us last night, said we needed to meet the man who reminded him why we served." Donald looked confused. "I just did CPR." "It's not about the CPR," Robert interrupted. "It's about still being ready, still being willing, still having the discipline and courage to act when everyone else freezes. That doesn't retire." A man in an old Army cap spoke up. "Name's Wilson. I'm 76. Last week I saw a car accident. 3 cars. People injured. I froze. Just stood there. Felt useless. Felt old." Donald looked at him directly. "You froze once. Doesn't mean you will next time. Training can come back. Just needs reminding." "That's why we asked you here," Robert said. "We have a proposal." Donald waited. "These people," Robert gestured around the room, "we're all retired military. We all have skills, medical training, logistics, crisis management, leadership, but we've been sitting around playing cards and talking about the old days. You reminded us we still have value, we still have purpose." "So what do you want to do?" Donald asked. Robert leaned forward. "We want to start a program, teach CPR and first aid to the community, free classes, run by veterans, for everyone, kids, adults, seniors. Because what happened yesterday in that park, that happens every day. And most people don't know what to do." Donald thought for a moment. "You want me to help?" "We want you to lead," Martha said. "You're the one who proved it still matters." 3 months later, the first class was held at the Veterans Center. 20 people showed up. Donald taught them, along with Robert, Martha, and the others. They called it Code Red Veterans, Emergency Response Training by those who served. The classes grew. After 6 months, they had trained 200 people. After a year, 500. Local schools started requesting classes for students. The fire department partnered with them. The story spread. One afternoon, a woman approached Donald after a class. Her name was Jennifer. "Mr. Trump, my son used your training last week. His friend choked at lunch. My boy did the Heimlich, saved his life. He's only 12. He said he did it because a veteran taught him that hesitation kills." Donald felt something warm in his chest. Pride, maybe. Or purpose. "That's good," he said simply. But Jennifer wasn't finished. "I wanted you to know something else. My father was military. He died when I was young. I never really understood what his service meant. But watching you, watching all of you, teach people how to save lives for free just because you can. Now I understand. Service doesn't end. It just changes forms." That night, Donald sat in his small apartment looking at a photograph on his wall. His old unit, 1972, Vietnam. Young faces, full of fear and hope. He wondered how many of them made it home, how many of them found purpose after the uniform came off. Then his phone rang. It was Emily. "Sergeant Trump, you need to come to the center tomorrow. Something's happening." The next morning, Donald arrived to find news cameras outside the Veterans Center. Inside, the room was packed. Mayor was there, police chief, fire chief, representatives from 3 hospitals. Emily and Robert stood at the front, smiling. The mayor stepped forward. "Sergeant Trump, because of your program, we've had 7 lives saved in this city in the past 6 months. 7 people who would have died if bystanders hadn't known what to do. The City Council has voted to make Code Red Veterans an official city program. Full funding. Expansion to every school and community center. The crowd applauded. Donald stood there, overwhelmed. "Sir," a reporter called out, "how does it feel to know you've created something that will save countless lives?" Donald thought carefully, then spoke in his quiet, measured way. "I didn't create anything. I just remembered something we all forget, that getting old doesn't mean getting useless, that the things we learned in service, the discipline, the courage, the skills, those don't expire. They're just waiting to be used again." Another reporter asked, "What's next for Code Red Veterans?" Donald looked at Robert, at Martha, at all the elderly veterans who had found purpose again. "What's next is we keep going, because there are more people to teach, more lives to protect, more reasons to get up every morning and remember that the mission never really ends. It just evolves." Today, Code Red Veterans operates in 15 cities, has trained over 10,000 people. And it all started because a 73-year-old man didn't walk past someone in trouble. Robert recovered fully. He and Donald teach classes together twice a week. They've become best friends, 2 old soldiers who found a new war to fight. A war against helplessness, against resignation, against the idea that age means irrelevance. Every class ends the same way. Donald stands before the students and says, "You now have the power to save a life." That's not a small thing. That's everything. Use it wisely. Use it bravely. And never ever walk past someone who needs help, because in that moment, you're not just a bystander. You're a first responder. If you believe that heroes are made in everyday moments, not just battlefields, hit like, type courage in the comments, and subscribe. Because this story proves that the greatest victories aren't won with weapons. They're won with skill, compassion, and the refusal to give up on people. And sometimes saving one life starts a chain reaction that saves thousands. The hospital waiting room was cold and sterile. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows on worried faces. Donald Trump sat in a plastic chair near the window, his old green military jacket pulled tight against the air conditioning. He was 73 years old, a retired Army sergeant, and he had been sitting there for 3 hours. Not for himself, for a stranger. Earlier that morning, Donald had been walking through the park, his usual Thursday routine. Exercise the legs, breathe the air, remember what it felt like to be useful. That's when he heard the scream. A woman's voice, high and panicked, cutting through the morning calm. Donald moved toward the sound, his old instincts kicking in immediately. By the fountain, a young woman was kneeling beside an elderly man who had collapsed on the ground. The man wasn't moving. His face was gray. People stood around in a circle, phones out, but nobody was helping. Nobody knew what to do. Donald pushed through the crowd, dropped to his knees beside the man. "Sir, can you hear me?" No response. Donald checked for a pulse. Weak, irregular. He tilted the man's head back, checked his airway. The woman was crying. "Please, please help him. That's my grandfather. He just fell." "I don't know what happened." Donald's voice was calm, controlled. "Call 911, now. Tell them we need an ambulance. Possible heart attack." He started chest compressions. Steady rhythm, just like he had been trained decades ago in combat medicine courses. 1, 2, 3, 4. He counted in his head, blocked out everything else. The crowd around him grew silent, watching. 30 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. 30 more compressions. His arms burned. His back screamed in protest. He was 73 years old. His body wasn't built for this anymore, but his mind was. Keep going. Don't stop. Never stop. 2 minutes felt like 20. Then the man gasped. Cough. His eyes fluttered open. Donald sat back, breathing hard. The woman grabbed her grandfather's hand, sobbing with relief. The ambulance arrived 5 minutes later. Paramedics took over, loaded the old man onto a stretcher. One of them looked at Donald. "You just saved his life, sir. What's your name?" Donald stood up slowly, knees protesting. "Doesn't matter. Just make sure he gets to the hospital safe." But the young woman ran up to him as he turned to leave. "Please," she grabbed his arm, "please come with us. He shouldn't be alone, and neither should you. You just gave him back to me." Donald looked at her tear-streaked face, saw genuine gratitude. He nodded once. The hospital. That's how Donald ended up in this waiting room, sitting with a stranger's family, waiting for news about a man whose name he didn't even know yet. The woman, her name was Emily, sat beside him. She hadn't stopped thanking him. "You don't understand," she kept saying. "He raised me. My parents died when I was 6. He's all I have." Donald listened quietly, the way soldiers learn to listen. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is just be present. After an hour, a doctor emerged. Emily stood up fast. "How is he?" The doctor smiled. "Stable. He had a cardiac event, but whoever performed CPR did it perfectly. Bought him the time he needed. He's going to be okay." Emily broke down crying again, this time from relief. She turned to Donald, tried to hug him. He accepted it awkwardly, patting her shoulder. That's when the doctor looked at Donald more carefully. "Sir, you performed the CPR?" Donald nodded. "Yes? You have medical training?" "Field training. Army. 43 years. The doctor's expression changed. Respect. That was textbook perfect, especially under pressure. "How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?" 73. The doctor blinked. 73? And you did chest compressions for that long? Donald shrugged. Training doesn't retire, just the person. But you haven't seen the most shocking part yet. 2 hours later, Emily's grandfather was awake. His name was Robert, 81 years old. When Emily told him what happened, he insisted on meeting Donald. They wheeled him into a private room where Donald was waiting. Robert's voice was weak but clear. "They tell me you saved my life." Donald stood up. "I just did what needed doing." Robert studied him for a long moment. "The jacket? The badge? You served?" "Yes, sir. Vietnam, Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan." Robert's eyes filled with tears. "I was Korea, 1952, 1st Marine Division." Donald's posture straightened instinctively. "Chosin Reservoir?" Robert nodded. "You know it. Every soldier knows it." Donald stepped forward, extended his hand. "It's an honor, sir." Robert gripped his hand. "The honor is mine, Sergeant. You gave me more time with my granddaughter. That's worth more than any medal." They sat together for an hour. Two old soldiers, different wars, same values. They talked about duty, about sacrifice, about the strange quiet of civilian life after so much noise. Emily watched from the doorway, crying silently. When visiting hours ended, Donald prepared to leave. Robert stopped him. "Sergeant Trump." "Yes, sir?" "This thing you did today, saving an old man in a park. That took the same courage as anything you did in uniform. Maybe more. Because there were no orders, no mission, just choice." Donald smiled slightly. "Some missions you give yourself, sir." Robert nodded slowly. "Come back tomorrow. Please, I want you to meet someone."